Infographics that are proven to create information effectively are not always the most attractive visually. We can program NotebookLM to generate prompts for infographics and have a scientific basis for their creation. And prompts can be created for Gemini where you will not see a visual watermark on the infographic. And we can program NotebookLM into a repeatable process for ourselves or our customers. And we will undertake this process in this video. We're going to start the process by creating a new notebook. And we need to import sources that will help us to create the best infographics according to research. Not necessarily the best looking, but the most effective according to research. We want to start with a very simple prompt. We want Gemini to give us a prompt that we can place inside of NotebookLM's Deep Research to find us scientific sources that will help us to create the most effective infographics. We're going to use this prompt in Gemini. We want to use the highest level prompt that you have available and then submit. Gemini should then give you a deep research prompt. You can save your deep research prompt to a Google Doc. We can then copy our prompt. We can copy it from the Google Doc or you can copy it from Gemini. Either one will work. We'll copy it. We'll head to NotebookLM. Inside of our new notebook, we're going to change the nature of the search to deep research. We're then going to paste in our prompt. We're then going to click enter and we're going to await for NotebookLM to do the research that we have asked. So our notebook now has sources that we can use in order to create prompts for the most effective infographic. We can view these sources and we can then determine which of them we want to keep. You can choose also to use non-cited sources if that is what you want to do. In this case, we're going to use the non-cited sources also. Once we have all the sources that are available, we then want to import the sources. The one thing we notice is that the sources seem to be limited to creating infographics in NotebookLM. We want to be able to create infographics and we want universal principles, even if they are not created in NotebookLM and created in some other AI, primarily Gemini. We're going to ask for Gemini to give us a second prompt that we can run that will give us a broader range of sources. We're going to ask for a second prompt to run in NotebookLM. Gemini does give us a second prompt. It's a good idea to read through this prompt. It will tell you what Gemini thinks are some of the most important factors in effective infographic creation. NotebookLM has now given us new sources. So we're now going to view the sources. And for the sake of this video, we're just going to approve the sources cited in the report. We're going to import them. Now we now have a total of 80 sources that will help us to create prompts using NotebookLM for NotebookLM and for Gemini. We want to use two places to program NotebookLM. I'm going to program NotebookLM in the configuration area. If you click on Configure Notebook and you click on Custom, you can configure the NotebookLM chat here in this area, and that is what we're going to want to do. And this is an area that if you were to share your notebook with other individuals, those individuals will not be able to see what you are placing here. And this is the proprietary area for NotebookLM. In all other cases, everything else that you share in the notebook will be shareable with the individual that will be using it, but the configure chat area is not going to be visible to other people. We will also be customizing this front page information. We can click on Customize, and we can then set the notebook summary. Now, if you're using the notebook for yourself, you don't have to set a custom notebook summary. However, if other people are going to be using your notebook, this is where you want to customize it because you want to communicate to them how to use the notebook as you have configured it. So what we now need to do is we now need to configure the notebook using Gemini, and then we need to customize the notebook using Gemini to create our prompt generator. That's here where you will write in plain language the rules and how you want the notebook to operate. We're going to be placing this prompt in Gemini so that Gemini can customize the prompt that we're going to be placing in NotebookLM. So we want to put in plain language what we want the notebook to do once it is programmed. Every interaction should generate two prompts. The notebook should ask the individual about their subject, their audience, and the purpose for their infographic. There's a second process that will need to take place if the individual is going to be creating an infographic in NotebookLM. We've placed this prompt inside of a Google Doc. We can now head to Gemini. We're then going to paste in our prompt. We'll then use the highest prompt available that we have. So what we want a prompt for the configure notebook area and a welcome note for customized notebook. And that's a good idea if you screenshot both of these areas just so that the AI will know exactly what it is you are looking for. So we can now run our prompt to get the configuration note and the welcome note. Gemini has now put together our configuration box. It's now put together our welcome note. We're going to go ahead and save this to a Google Doc. So we're going to take the prompt configuration and we're going to place it inside of the configuration area. So we will copy it. We will then head to configuration. We're going to click customize. We're going to paste in our prompt. We're going to use the default link and we're going to click save. What we can do is we can then F5 to refresh the notebook. We now want to customize the notebook. We're going to copy the text and we're going to head to NotebookLM. We're going to click on Customize. We're going to turn on our custom notebook summary and we're going to paste in our information. We're then going to click Done. You'll notice now that our notebook is now customized. We can F5 and refresh it. And our notebook is now ready for use. Now, the way that we set up the AI, we're going to start by saying hello so that the notebook will then know to wake up to the instructions that we have given it. It's now asking for our subject, it's asking for our audience, and it's asking for the purpose. We've written down the subject of what we want to teach. We've written in our audience, we've written in the purpose. What we want the AI to do now is to help us to select which of the scientific sources will influence how we create our prompts. So we're now going to click Enter. Now to generate the prompts, NotebookLM states that it used 5 primary sources. We have 77. However, the ones that were needed most in order to execute the prompts that we want are the 5 that are listed here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to then save this entire interaction to a note. And so we can keep this in this area so that we have a prompt library. We now have 2 prompts. We have one for Gemini chat based on what we want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this prompt and we're going to move it over to Gemini, and we're going to move it over to Gemini with a specific source. We're going to look for a source in Google Drive. Once we're Gemini, we're going to turn on the create image feature. And we're now going to paste in our prompt. We're now going to let Gemini create the infographic. And our new infographic is now complete. Now remember, this infographic is made to be scientifically effective in communicating information. It may not be the most attractive way of creating the information that you want to create. What we now want to do is we want to take the same document, we want to create the infographic in NotebookLM using its tools, understanding that the infographic created inside of Gemini is not watermarked. Depending on what level of account that you have in NotebookLM, your infographic that you create with the infographic tool will be watermarked. So we're going to go back to NotebookLM, and this time we're going to get prompt number 2. We want to make sure that we don't have any sources selected. We want to add the same source that we used in our Gemini prompt inside of NotebookLM. So we're going to grab it from our Google Drive. We're then going to insert it. And once we insert that document, we don't want to select any of the other documents. We only want that document to be used in order to create the infographic. We have the document here. It is selected. And now that it is selected, we're going to use the infographic tool. We're going to click on infographic in the editor. We're going to use the standard level of detail. We're going to paste in the prompt that we just picked up. And we're going to allow NotebookLM to choose the visual style. Now we can choose a visual style if we want. However, we're going to let NotebookLM choose a visual style, and then we're going to generate it. Now the completion is not going to happen in real time. We're going to stop the video here. We're going to pick it up from the completion of the creation of the infographic in NotebookLM using the NotebookLM tool. The NotebookLM infographic tool is now complete, and you may see some similarities between the infographic that we created and the infographic created here in NotebookLM, and both utilize specific sources in order to generate the prompt. So we can turn NotebookLM into an infographic prompt generator using scientific literature and information to create our prompts. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.